Are you struggling with anxiety and you don't want to use medication? Well, you may want to consider using CBD oil. Today we're going to talk about the research behind CBD oil, how to use it and how to dose it appropriately, and how to treat anxiety with CBD oil. So stay tuned to learn more. Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Shelley Meyer. I'm a functional medicine physician, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and family doctor. And on this channel, we talk about reclaiming your health and vitality. I post new videos every Thursday. I'd love for you to subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified every Thursday when I post new videos on reclaiming your health. Today, let's dive into how to naturally calm your anxiety with CBD and the research behind CBD for anxiety and in general. I've worked with hundreds of patients with anxiety. It's a very common diagnosis in my practice. And many of them are looking for safe alternatives to benzodiazepines. Those are the traditional medicines that are used for anxiety. Sometimes SSRIs are used as well, but benzodiazepines are in the family of Xanax and Klonopin and Valium and those kind of things. So those can be addictive and harsh and really hard to get off of. And they do make your head kind of foggy and not feel your best. So many patients that I work with are looking for alternatives to benzodiazepines. And CBD is a great, safe, effective alternative. We are just starting in our kind of infant stages of being able to use CBD in most states. And so the research is kind of limited, but we are going to talk about the research today. And we are going to talk about how to dose it and how to use it to calm anxiety. So by the end of this video, you'll be comfortable choosing a CBD oil and knowing why you're choosing it, how you can use it, and at least trying to use it to calm your anxiety. So let's dive into how to do that. So first, let's talk about what CBD is. There's a lot of confusion that it's the same as THC, which is the ingredient in marijuana that makes you feel high or intoxicated or just kind of alters your mood. But CBD is not the same as THC. It does come from marijuana. It's CBD stands for cannabidiol, and it's one of the cannabinoids that are found within industrial hemp or the marijuana plant. But it does not contain anything that would be mood altering or cause it or create any kind of high. There are different versions of CBD, and so we'll talk about all of those and what they might contain, as far as some of them do contain a teeny amount of THC, but not enough to alter your mood or cause any kind of high. But CBD is the second most abundant component of cannabis. Whenever you see that CBD on a label, that means it stands for cannabidiol. And so that's not THC, not the same as THC. They can work synergistically together, and we'll talk about that too. But the research shows, when they've tested it for anxiety, that relative to placebo, the CBD is associated with a significant decrease in subjective anxiety, in social anxiety disorder in particular. They've tested that. They've also tested it with patients who have anxiety that interferes with their sleep, and CBD works really well for calming that anxiety that would interfere with the sleep. They've tested it for people that have anxiety and depression too, and it works on both factors there. Works similarly on some of the serotonin receptors and the neurotransmitters in the brain, without the same side effects as the SSRIs, and definitely without the side effects of the benzodiazepines. So the studies that I reviewed found that the anxiety scores went down, the sleep scores improved, and then also that the CBD, when they looked at certain parts of the brain, that it was working within the limbic and paralimbic parts of the brain. So we have some studies. We are probably going to be expanding in our country a lot more studies in relation to CBD. A lot of the studies are coming from Europe, because they have some actual pharmaceuticals that contain CBDs, and the research money in our country is from pharmaceuticals, so we don't quite have that research backing right now, because we don't have any actual pharmaceutical companies that are carrying a CBD oil product. So money's in big pharma here. So we'll have to wait for some really big studies, but I did review several small studies that found the effects that I just discussed, the reduction in social anxiety disorder, improvements in sleep, helping parts of the brain function better, helping anxiety-related depression, or when depression or anxiety are mixed up together, and even helping with panic attacks and acute anxiety attacks. And we'll talk about how to dose it for that today too. So there have definitely been benefits, and CBD's been used for decades and they haven't found any significant side effects. The dosing is very dependent on the person, but they haven't seen any kind of adverse side effects like you would see with the benzodiazepines, with Xanax, with Klonopin, with any of those. You can see significant side effects with those, especially if they were combined with alcohol. And then also with, again, trying to get off of them is a really big problem for a lot of people. So it's a much safer alternative to that. And I can provide you with any of the studies that you'd like, if you'd like to learn more about what I reviewed before presenting this video. So just let me know in the comments if you'd like to learn more about the studies. So let's talk about the different ways that you can find CBD in what different forms, and give you a definition of each of those so you know what might fit your needs better. So there's full spectrum CBD, and what that is it's the oil where it's all the active compounds from the cannabinoids are in there. And it's got flavonoids and terpene and vitamins and minerals. It's kind of like when you would, CBD is basically a food, so it's kind of like when we recommend that you eat real food instead of just an isolated down vitamin C or something like that, because we like for it all to come together and kind of work synergistically and be absorbed that way, and the body really prefers it that way. So the full spectrum CBD is really kind of the most natural way of taking in the CBD. It does have 0.3% THC. So the THC, like I said, is the kind that is what people traditionally use to get high, but 0.3% is all that's in the full spectrum CBD. So you don't get high at all off of that. There's no mood altering. Some people are concerned if they get drug tested by their companies or their work or whatever, that might show up. And I guess over time that could build up. So you do have to be careful with that. And again, the full spectrum might not be available in every state in our country, because some still have regulations against that. So you do want to look into your state's regulations. But the full spectrum is really the most natural way to consume CBD. And then you have the broad spectrum, which includes most of the hemp-derived cannabinoids except the THC. So the broad spectrum would still have a lot of those other cannabinoids that would naturally come together, and some of the terpenes and flavonoids and some of the vitamins and minerals, but it just wouldn't have the THC in there. So that's a better option for those people, like I said, that don't want to have any kind of THC, or in a state where they can't have any THC, or would worry about it with drug testing. Any concerns like that with THC, you could choose the broad spectrum. And then there's CBD isolate, where they go and they remove all of the other molecules except the CBD, and they take it, and it's like an anhydrous white powder, and then it's usually put into a capsule or an oil or a gummy or something like that. So that's the most isolated form of CBD. It doesn't work as synergistically. You don't get that as many of the health benefits from having the flavonoids and everything else in there, but still it can be very, very effective when you're using it for calming and anxiety and depression and sleep and pain. I forgot to mention that, if you didn't know, CBD is used a lot for pain. So if your anxiety is tied into your pain, it's another reason to use that, or to try. You don't have to, but to consider using CBD. It's because it can be very effective for pain. So when you see gummies and capsules and things like that, that's the CBD isolate. You can also see the isolate in oil as well. Those are some ideas, or those are some different ways that you can consume CBD. And you could try whichever option seems to fit well or best for you. Now the oils, the full spectrum and the broad spectrum oils, or if you have the isolate made into an oil, is a really great way to absorb it, because CBD really gets best absorbed in an oil format. So they will mix those with MCT oil or some other kind of healthy oil usually. So I would look for the kind that have an MCT oil in them, or an organic type of oil, and not any of the real I haven't seen any with any kind of safflower or sunflower or any kind of hydrogenated oil or anything like that, but looking for the kind with an organic oil in them is best, or hemp oil in general is very healthy. I was going to say, you take the oil with the you can take the oil with some omega-3 fatty acids like fish oil or flax oil or something like that, and that can help the absorption of both the omega-3 and the CBD oil. So that's a great way to consume because CBD is like a food. So that's a great way to consume your CBD. Now, what I'd recommend as far as dosing is to start with the amount that's on the label. So not the labels on CBD can be very confusing because they will say it's some kind of rule they have to do with labeling, but they will say the amount that's in the whole bottle. So for example, if you have one that says 1,000 milligrams, that means 1,000 milligrams in the 30 milliliter bottle that you have, or whatever, dose. Usually they're 30 milliliters, they can be smaller or bigger. So whatever milligrams is on the front of that label, that is the amount that's in the whole bottle. So you would look on the back and you would say what they're recommending for a starting dose. Let's say in milligrams, that would be anywhere between 10 and 20 milligrams is a good starting dose. And then you could try the next day, if you didn't feel an effect from that, the next day dosing it up a little bit by doing 1.5 times that dose, and then maybe the next day doubling it. And I know this may sound risky when you're going up by that much, but again, you're not having any high or mood altering effects of this, and there are no known side effects of CBD oil as far as disrupting your brain function or anything like that. Now, some people do use it for sleep, so maybe it could make you a bit sleepy, but it is not going to have any kind of the negative side effects like you would if you were dosing up Xanax or Klonopin or something like that. And that way, we don't do it that way with those medications. So you would have to try to find the right dose for you. A lot of people land anywhere between like 30 and 50 milligrams for pain and for anxiety and for depression. So look at the back of the label and start at the starting dose, or even if you're hesitant, half the starting dose. Another recommendation would be, if you have trouble sleeping and you're using for CBD for anxiety and sleep, to not take it within 2 hours of sleep. Most people would think they take it at bedtime if they're using it for sleep, but it can have a bit of a stimulating effect. So it's best to take it 2 hours or more before sleep, let's say in the evening when you get home or dinner time or something like that. Taken with food, it's even better absorbed anyway. So take it at that time and then just kind of play around with what time works best for you. You could do that dose at night. You could also, if it doesn't make you sleepy and you have anxiety during the day, work-related, social-related anxiety, driving-related anxiety, and it's safe to drive with CBD, you could use the CBD before you go to work, before you drive, and just try it first on a weekend to see how it makes you feel, so that you don't feel too sleepy when you're working or driving. But try it like that, and then you can just play around with 2 or 3 times a day dosing, or maybe just 1 time a day dosing, or as needed. So hopefully this helped. I am going to have all of this in a PDF for you too. So look at the description down below. There's going to be resources for the kind and brands of CBD that I've researched and that I would recommend, and links for those. And then there'll be the link for the PDF that you can sign up to get the PDF that talks about how to dose CBD for your anxiety. And please comment down below if you've tried CBD for your anxiety, or if you found a technique that you like that kind of calms your anxiety. I'd love to hear more. Again, I'm Dr. Shelley Meyer. I'd love for you to subscribe and hit the bell notification to be notified every time I post a new video every Thursday on reclaiming your health. See you next time.